Hey, today we're going to compare the LG SM9970 and the Samsung Q900R. This is LG's flagship nanocell TV of 2019 and is their main contender to the Samsung Q900R. Both of these TVs have 8K panels and are some of the first consumer 8K TVs on the market. Hi, I'm Alex, a tester at Ratings.com, where we help people find the best products for their needs. In this video, we'll compare the SM9970 and Q900R's design and move on to the picture quality. We'll look at the motion handling, input lag, and sound. We'll also see which of the two has the better upscaling, since there is no native consumer 8K content at the moment. And Samsung has advertised improvements to the image when watching at an angle with their newest technology they call Ultra Viewing Angle. We'll see how that compares to the LG's IPS panel. If you'd like to skip straight to our test results, then see the links in the description below. Stay tuned. The design of the SM9970 is excellent. It has a wide footprint, but the stand has some metal on the inside for better support. There is some cable management built into the back of the stand to organize and hide your cabling. It's well put together and feels solid, although our model came with a missing screw. Let us know in the comments if yours was missing any screws too. The controls are a single button at the bottom and is fairly easy to use. The Q900R is also well designed. Like many of the newer Samsung TVs, this model includes the One Connect box, so you can connect all your cables from the TV to this box and then keep it far away from the actual display. On the box are 4 HDMI connections, but no analog display for older devices. The TV is very solid with metal borders and a wider stand than the SM9970 to support it. This does mean you'll need a wider table if you don't plan on mounting it to the wall. The controls are under the right-hand side and is a 4-way joystick with a center button for selection, which is easy to use. Looking at the thermal images, we can see the SM9970 runs cooler than the Q900R. This may be due to the fact that the SM9970 is a larger screen, which allows the heat to disperse over a larger surface. The Q900R uses an extra optical layer over the screen in order to improve its viewing angles, which may increase the overall temperature of the screen. The One Connect box gets hot after sustained use. Now we'll move on to the picture quality. The LG SM9970 uses an IPS panel and the Q900R has a VA one. Both have advantages and disadvantages in the picture quality, but I'll get to the specifics as they become relevant. For an updated comparison with new models as we buy and test them, see the review page on our website, which is linked below. The first thing to stand out is that these TVs are 8K. Currently, there is no consumer content that is natively 8K. We were able to get 8K images through the USB ports to work on both TVs. However, on the SM9970, we were unable to get any video content to play at 8K, either through the built-in YouTube app or any of the computers in our office. If you've been able to get any 8K content to play on your model, let us know in the comments. The Q900R, on the other hand, was able to show 8K content from YouTube through one of our systems with a GTX 1060 6GB card, but there's some overscan. We also have to set the frame rate limit to 30 FPS in order to get the 8K signal through to the TV. This is due to a limitation of bandwidth available over HDMI 2.0. This TV is advertised to support the newer and higher bandwidth HDMI 2.1 standard. However, HDMI 2.1 devices currently aren't available for consumers to buy or for us to test with. We will continue to look into these TVs once an HDMI 2.1 source is available for us to buy. The built-in YouTube app, however, does not appear to support resolutions higher than 4K. Both of these TVs are able to upscale 480p, 720p, and 1080p content very well. This means cable and Blu-ray content will appear clean and smooth for both these TVs. The big difference is in the 4K upscaling, and the SM9970 is better. It does not score perfectly since it is not its native resolution and therefore not pixel perfect. The Q900R still does an excellent job at upscaling 4K content with fine upscaling artifacts and spatial dithering, but the LG has done a better job on their upscaling technology. The contrast ratio on the SM9970 is mediocre, even for an IPS panel. While the local dimming feature improves it significantly, it is still on the low end for IPS. This can be annoying for some people as the blacks will appear gray in a dark room. The Q900R, on the other hand, is decent but far lower than most TVs with VA panels. This is because of the extra optical layer over the screen that I mentioned earlier. It improves the viewing angles at the expense of the contrast ratio. In a bright room, it shouldn't be too noticeable, but in the dark, you would still be able to see blacks appear a little more gray. Despite this, the contrast ratio is better on the Q900R. The performance of the local dimming on the SM9970 is disappointing. The backlight struggles to keep up at times, causing the edge of leading objects to appear dimmer with noticeable flickering. However, in dark scenes, it performs better, but there is still some blooming in regular content as well as on subtitles, which can be distracting. The Q900R does local dimming very well. Their algorithm allows very little blooming, but this does have a trade-off. It suffers from reverse blooming, which dims the edges of whites in darker scenes, which creates a vignette around bright areas. This dimming can cause small areas of bright spots like stars to be crushed. If you're bothered by blooming but don't mind losing small details in dark scenes, the Q900R does an excellent job and works great in real content. Generally, IPS panels like the SM9970 have better viewing angles at the cost of contrast ratio, especially compared to VA panels. The SM9970 has decent viewing angles. The color shifting is the most noticeable, followed by a decrease in brightness. It is more or less what we expect from IPS panels, which we generally recommend for those with wide seating. The Q900R's viewing angles are very good. The image remains accurate for a fairly large angle, and the black level never goes too high, which helps with preventing images from looking washed out. The performance of this VA panel seems to be more in line from what we expect from IPS, and that is because of the extra optical layer I've been mentioning. It helps to diffuse the light more widely instead of straight, which allows for the better results we've recorded and the more optimal viewing angle. This makes it a good choice for those with wide seating. If you have a bright room, the reflection handling of the SM9970 is excellent. The anti-reflection coating works well and reduces the reflections in the room. However, the reflection handling is better on the Q900R. Samsung TVs have been improving this for a few years, and the Q900R continues this improvement. There is horizontal smearing of reflections though, which might be because of the ultra viewing angle layer over the screen. In a bright room, this TV is an excellent choice. The peak brightness is also useful to overcome glare in a bright room. The SM9970 has great SDR peak brightness and decent HDR peak brightness. It does have some variation between different content, but it can get bright enough to not have to worry about the glare. The Q900R, however, has superior peak brightness in both SDR and HDR. Small highlights in dark scenes can get very bright, which helps to stand out. If you find the screen too bright, you can lower the backlight to dim the image. It can get bright enough to overcome glare in a bright room. It also helps to produce bright HDR scenes that pop out. Gray uniformity is important for sports or panning shots in content. Having good gray uniformity is important to reduce distracting spots on the screen, which are called the dirty screen effect. Both of these TVs score similarly in our tests. The SM9970 has vignetting in the corners and spots all throughout, which could be annoying for gamers or sports fans. The Q900R has similar issues, but with less vignetting. The dirty screen effect, however, is in full force and may be noticeable, especially in large areas of similar color, like a football field. This varies between units due to panel variance, but we expect this sort of behavior to be typical. A wide color gamut is important for people who watch a lot of HDR content. It is important to produce saturated, bright, and vivid scenes. The SM9970 and Q900R both post a wide color gamut and are able to produce all the color needed for most content. They both have similar EOTFs, which are slightly brighter than they should be. Even so, the two are fairly evenly matched in their ability to produce bright, vibrant colors. For people who watch sports or other fast content such as gaming, response time needs to be fast. This helps to reduce the amount of motion blur that follows a fast object. Both of these TVs would be able to follow a fast object without much trouble. The Q900R has a bit of an advantage compared to the SM9970 as it has a faster flicker, which will not be noticeable to most people. Despite this, both TVs have outstanding response times. If you want to reduce even more blur for gaming, both TVs feature black frame insertion. This feature introduces flicker into the screen, allowing it to flicker at 60 Hz, which is great for avoiding blur or duplications with most 60 FPS content. Input lag is really important for gaming, as the lower the input lag, the less time your action registers on the screen. The SM9970 has exceptional input lag, scoring 18.5 milliseconds at 4K 60 and 7.7 milliseconds at 120 Hz in both 1080p and 1440p. Unfortunately, we were unable to get the TV to run at 4K 120 Hz or native 8K. Variable refresh rate is a feature that allows the display to synchronize with the changing frame rate of a game. It helps to prevent screen tearing as well as creates a smoother gaming experience. This causes an issue that, despite having the latest firmware for this TV, we were unable to get the variable refresh rate to run on our system with an RTX 2070 Super or an Xbox One S. We're not sure why it is not working, as we've gotten it to work on other LG TVs. If you're able to get variable refresh rate to run, let us know. The Q900R, on the other hand, has an input lag of 15.1 milliseconds at 4K 60 and 7.8 milliseconds at 4K 120. It is able to produce 4K 120 at a speed comparable to that of the SM9970 at 1440p. We were also able to get VRR to work with the Xbox and a PC with FreeSync support, allowing you guys to take advantage of the feature, which is great. The SM9970 uses the Web OS that is used by LG for their smart interface. It works well and it's easy to use. It has a ton of apps and is able to be controlled with your phone. The SM9970 is able to take advantage of HDR over Netflix and YouTube and can run files off of a USB. Overall, it is an excellent smart system that makes good use of the Magic Remote's voice activation and pointer. The Q900R uses the same smart platform as the other Samsung TVs, Tizen. It's easy to use, intuitive, and doesn't have any noticeable issues. It has the same features as the SM9970, including the USB capabilities and HDR in its native apps. The remote is good with a voice activation and a One Remote feature that allows it to connect to other devices such as a Blu-ray player. The SM9970 has decent sound. It has a good amount of bass, but don't expect it to rumble the windows too much. It can get fairly loud and dialogue sounds clear. The Q900R also has fairly good sound. The bass is a little bit mediocre and doesn't have really much feel at all. It can get fairly loud though. As with most TVs, if you really care about sound, you're better off with an external speaker or soundbar. Thankfully, we also review soundbars, and you're free to check them out in the description below. So overall, the SM9970 is a large, interesting TV that has a few problems with VRR and producing that 8K image. It's a good step forward for LG, and once we're able to get 8K in its full glory, it'll be exciting to see what their TVs can produce. From the data we've looked at so far though, the Q900 has the features that work properly, is solidly designed and well built. For those reasons, it is the better buy for most people. We're looking forward to seeing what comes next when the higher resolution content becomes available. So that's it. What do you think of the TVs? Have you bought either? Let us know below. You can check all the measurements on our website. If you enjoyed this video, like it and subscribe to our channel, or become an insider on the website for access to our latest results first. Also, we're currently hiring in our offices in Montreal for various positions. So if you want to help people find the best products for their needs, have a look at the careers page on our website. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.